Right, good morning, Shabbat Shalom. So every country takes a census of its people. In America, we do it every 10 years. So there's not going to be another one for another 7 years or so. And it's a pretty sensible thing to do. I don't think there's anything really controversial. There's anything really problematic about taking a census. You want to know how many people are in your country. You want to know how old they are. You want to know what their needs are, how many bagels you need to order. There are all sorts of information that's helpful, but again, there's nothing really controversial about it. And so it's not surprising that the Torah reading today talks about taking a census of the people and that there is an annual census. But the language that the Torah uses for the census was very intriguing to me. And God talks to Moses and says, Ki tisa et rosh b'nei Yisrael lifkudehem v'natnu ish kofer nafsho ladonai bifkod otam v'lo yihye bahem negef bifkod otam. That when you take a census of the people, what you're really doing is taking a ransom from them. They are ransoming themselves. The word used in Hebrew for taking the census is pikudehem. It's a very strange word. Why would you have to ransom yourself? And the age where you started to do this was from the age of 20 on up. Mi ben esrim shana v'mala. So why do they use the word ransom? And why do they really start counting people at the age of 20 for this particular census, for this particular ransom? And what Sforno says is that the reason that people have to be ransomed each year is that humans are different every single year. That people change, that when Adam and Eve were first created, they were meant to never change. They would live forever and they would never change, and they would be the only two people. But even that didn't work. Human beings are different every year. And I think there's a mistake to think that the only time people really change is from childhood into adolescence and then adolescence into adulthood. The changes between a 20-year-old to a 40-year-old could be far more monumental in many ways than from a child into a 20-year-old. And we just sort of think that once you hit a certain age, by the time you're 21, you should have it all figured out, and this is who you are, and you should just stay with that. How many of you have it figured out? And I want to hear the over 20-year-olds, Anyone here have it figured out? Any of you think, though, that by now you would have? I really thought, I saw when I would see people my age now, when I was a kid, like, they must understand it. And when I get to be that age, you change, the world changes. And sometimes the changes in your life cause harm, maybe to you, maybe they cause harm to others, even when it's not intentional, even when you don't know it. And I think sometimes people are afraid to change and make a difference in their life that they know they need because they're afraid that someone will say, that's not who you are, or I don't know you, or I don't understand you. So we kind of stay in this little box, and that causes harm to ourselves, but we're afraid if we change, it may cause harm to others. And it can cause harm. Relationships end sometimes because people change and they don't change together. You don't have to change in the same way, but you have to honor each other's changes. You have to understand that maybe a person you were friends with from childhood, they're a different person, and you can't ask them to be the same person. It's not fair, and they can't ask you to be the same person. And it's whether it's marriages, whether it's friendships, whether it's parent-child relationships. Parents know that the kid changes over time, but the kid doesn't understand the parent changes over time too. That's why we have these life cycle events publicly, because when we have a wedding, it's not just a change for the couple getting married, it's for everyone in their circle. When there is a death, it's not just for the immediate family, though it's primarily for the immediate family. It resonates. And birth, spring change, every kind of change, no matter how good it is, creates a certain unbalance, a certain level of instability, which can be very difficult to deal with. That's why with this the census is when you bring that half shekel, you're redeeming yourself every year. It's okay for me to change, but I know that it's going to affect other people as well. And the reason for the age of 20 that was picked, according to Chizkuni, is that up until the age of 20, they understood that your decision-making functions weren't fully developed. All right, your frontal cortex, this part of your forehead here and brain, doesn't fully develop really until your early 20s. And that's why you can have the most sensible kid on earth do the dumbest thing ever, because that part of the brain isn't really fully formed. So the Torah says, up until 20, if someone's a knucklehead, it's not necessarily okay, but it's understandable. And you have to try to help them navigate that. And you have to understand that if they make a bad decision, that there's a path back. We are a very, very punitive society. And now if kids make mistakes, and I'm not talking about terrible, violent, horrible things. That's a whole other category to think about, to deal with. But they just did something stupid and disappointing, and they let you down in the way different from who you thought that they were. The Torah says up until age 20, though, that's just human nature. People are going to do stupid things because we are wired, and you have to help kids find ways to not do stupid things that cause permanent damage. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to do stupid stuff. It's not your fault necessarily as a parent. It's just Darwin and biology. And you do the best you can, and you try to help them maneuver that. But after a while, though, you got to stop being a knucklehead and take some responsibility. Someone says, well, I'm still a kid at heart. You might be a kid at heart, but you better be an adult in your brain. And to start thinking about the impact on your life. And the Torah knows, though, that you're going to fail. We're all going to fail at it. We're going to get some stuff right. We're going to get some stuff wrong. And that's why the Torah offers an opportunity every year for that moment of redemption. We're talking now about the bringing of the shekel, of redeeming ourselves, because we're actually not preparing for Passover. We're actually preparing for Yom Kippur. Passover is the preparation for Yom Kippur. Passover is you say, I am free to act, but I also have to understand the impact of my actions. I am allowed to change and I am allowed to grow. I'm allowed to make decisions for my life, but I have to understand that impact. And I have to spend these next 6 months trying to understand what that impact was on other people. That's why in Judaism we have an idea that you apologize for something even if it was unintentional. You don't say, well, I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter whether you meant to, it hurt someone. It caused some harm. I had a lot of stuff going on this last year and a half. A lot. I don't think anyone here even understands it. And you don't have to. We all got stuff. And I made decisions that I had to make, which I thought were right, and I still believe that they were right, but they caused hurt. And I have apologized for it. Whether my apologies have all been accepted, I don't know. I did what I thought was right. I never meant to hurt anybody. It was the right thing, and it caused hurt, and I have to find a way, or continue to find a way back from that. And we all got that story. Part of my job as a rabbi is to let you know that I am here with you in your story, and that I understand that you got a story, and I want you to understand that I got stories too. And when I give my last sermon, I'll share it with you. Because as soon as I do, it's going to be my last sermon. And you're all wondering, what is it? It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. But we've all got stuff. And I think we've got to give ourselves permission to be human beings. Right? God doesn't ask us to be angels. God asks us to be human. And the Torah gives us a path back from our mistakes and our fallibilities and our instabilities. But we have to allow ourselves, we have to give ourselves permission to take that path and to know that we are worthy of love, that we are worthy of dignity, that we are worthy of making the decisions that make sense for us. We just need to know how it impacts others and to help them find their path as well. Shabbat Shalom.